right, so let's bring in Dr. Githinji Gitahi, the global CEO of Amref Health Africa and a board member of Africa CDC. He joins us via Zoom in Nairobi. Dr. Gitahi, a pleasure to have you with us tonight. So the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, it's been promoted as the best option for Africa, especially given that there is already a system in place to maintain the cold chain. Are these revelations on its efficacy reason for concern as Africa readies to roll the vaccination?
Well, I don't think it is right to say that it's been touted as the best option because there are so many vaccines that are coming up. Of course, there are conditions that Africa CDC and WHO, Afro and others and governments are looking at to say which is better than the other. And those have to do with storage conditions, whether it's 1 dose or 2 doses. We know there are vaccines like Johnson & Johnson likely to be 1 single dose, costs per individual, all these things. So I think to say it's touted as the best would be to be superfluous in a way for now, but would say it's the one that's available that has met many of the conditions that African governments are looking at, as Africa CDC and others look at all the others. But definitely, the issues of efficacy are serious, especially now because we are looking at variants that are coming up. And these are variants of concern. And a variant of concern is something that may affect vaccination, may affect the diagnosis, may affect the severity, and may affect the rate of transmission. And this is what the South African variant is. So it's definitely a concern, which means we need to accelerate vaccination and the conditions of control so that we don't allow the vaccines to just linger for long, because when they linger for long in the bodies, that's when mutations occur. So there is definitely a concern raised by the mutations that may affect the efficacy.
And what you just said, Dr. Gitahi, brings me then to my next question. What does this study on the AstraZeneca vaccine mean for vaccines going forward?
It just means that more trials need to be done. Remember that this particular study in South Africa had not started vaccination, actually, so we can't say they have suspended. They are actually holding on a little longer, because this study was a small study of about 2,000 subjects. There are concerns around the fact that it was largely on young people, and they also did not look at severe disease, protection against severe disease, looked at mild to moderate disease. Remember that most of these vaccines are not stopping infection. They are stopping severity of disease. So it didn't look at severity of disease. And what the South African government is doing is becoming cautious and saying, well, let's hear what the scientists tell us before we start to roll out the vaccination, because they hadn't started. They were waiting to start later this month. So what does it mean for vaccination? It means that vaccination is needed more rapidly, because the reason we have this mutation is because the vaccine has been lingering in human bodies for too long. And as the vaccine uses the human body as a photocopy machine, mistakes occur. Those mistakes are the ones that we call mutations. So the longer the vaccine is allowed to stay in human body, the more the mutations, and the more likely we may get mutations of concern. So the call then would be that we accelerate vaccination, we accelerate the measures that we are taking, and we continue to be vigilant on monitoring the variants, and also making sure that we monitor the side effects and the effectiveness of the vaccines. Remember, all these vaccines are under emergency use authorization. None of them has completed clinical trial phase 3, and therefore that's why we need to be more vigilant on all the areas of efficacy and safety.
All right, picking up on that word vigilance, and another word that you've mentioned severally, mutation. That's a word we've been hearing a lot of, in regards to this virus. And there is concern over the continent's new variants. What is being done to track the variants?
The only way to monitor variants is actually to do genomic sequencing, so that for every sample you collect and it's positive, you actually sequence that particular virus, so that you have a genomic formula or the constitution of that particular virus. And therefore, when you do that, you notice that all of them are the same, and then at some point you notice that one is different, and then you must record that and share with the global networks, so that people know there's a new variant, and then you start to monitor. And if you look at South Africa through their genomic sequencing, that's how they notice that actually almost 80% of all their new cases are this new variant. So without genomic sequencing, you cannot actually tell when the variants are coming, and therefore when you have a mutation of concern, you cannot recognize it because you don't know it's there. You may just see different patterns of disease, or spread of the infection without knowing what's going on. So the Africa CDC is supporting about 8 labs in about 7 or 8 countries or so, including South Africa, Kenya, and others. And this genomic sequencing is what is helping to create a bank of these variants so that you know when you have a new variant. So that's what is being done. And we hope that there can be enough resources to be able to do this globally, including in Africa, and support for Africa CDC to continue doing this so that we can then keep a bank of the types of variants that we are recording and be able to then have control ahead so that the virus is not ahead of us.
All right, Dr. Githinji, thank you for talking to us tonight.